Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Unstoppable Overcomers. And I'm your host, Dorothy O'Dell, for this evening. Tonight is super excited because we are bringing to you an award-winning film writer and producer, and can't wait to hear Wendy's story. But first, I just want to go in and say thank you to the first sponsor of today's show. Today's show is sponsored by the Leffa Coach, an innovative entrepreneurial venture partner that will take your income and self-expression to the next level. With his established 5-pillar methodology, the Leffa Coach can help you build a solid foundation for success and expand your full potential. As a venture growth coach, the Leffa Coach is dedicated to partnering with you and your established business to help you grow your income and achieve your goals. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a professional looking to take your career to the next level, the Leffa Coach can provide you with guidance, support, and resources you need to succeed. If you're ready to unlock your full potential and achieve your dreams, then schedule a free 30-minute inquiry call using this link provided. Trust me, as a client who's experienced his growth interventions already, you won't regret it. Okay, we're going to share a little clip from Wendy's movie, My Golden Blood, and it can't wait to share this with you. This is her and her partner, Noah.
We want to do this video in an atmosphere
that's real to us. I love cars.
And it's a great driver.
You can find us in a car together most of the time where, she's in the passenger seat.
Being all zen.
I'm usually the one behind the wheel.
Hey, hi. I'm Wendy Weiner.
Hi. Wow, caught me off guard. I'm Noah Bewley. And we're team My Golden Blood.
Team. There we go. Team.
My Golden Blood series features an exciting story, and our original content jumps off the page in the form of 3D motion capture animation video, complete with sound and music. But wait, there's more. These videos will be gamified so our audience can choose the next steps our characters take.
From out of nowhere, this idea hit me in the face, and I ran with it.
And it was pretty fully fleshed out when you, it wasn't like little tiny bits. You didn't get oh, that's an idea and I'll put it somewhere.
I needed to take it to somebody immediately. I couldn't hold on to it much longer. It was a really heavy idea, carried a lot of weight. And the person I brought it to said I better run with that. That you got an idea, run with that idea.
By investing in My Golden Blood, you'll help us introduce the read it, watch it, play it way of consuming content.
It's a story that really talks about rebuilding broken teenagers. Unfortunately, somebody wants to rebuild them into weapons. And that somebody was created by you.
Clay Quinn is braving the storm around him and inside of him. He thought his trusted mentor could help him fulfill his so-called capacity for greatness. In reality, he's a disposable weapon in the General's war against humanity. The General is now certain nothing can stop him because he just retrieved a one-of-a-kind key to unlock the floodgates of chaos. That key, a no longer needed helping hand. Kate B. Good has a diverse and explosive network unified in their singular task of undermining what the General set in motion. His biggest mistake? Not taking her seriously, but neither did Clay. Now they both see what she possesses.
I always found more pleasure in doing things that were real, and sometimes the realest things are the darkest things.
Thanks again for watching. We're excited to bring it to you. That's Noah. I'm Wendy. And we're now at Studios, bringing you My Golden Blood.
Thanks for tuning in.
Reclaim yourself.
Alrighty. Let me put this down here. Stop screen. And we'll bring Wendy to the screen. Thank you so much, Wendy, for joining us tonight.
Nice to see you. How are you?
I am great. That is an amazing trailer. I have to say, you guys did an amazing job. And I didn't even really realize what my golden blood was until you and I talked. And that in itself is a whole story there. But so tell us a little bit about yourself and your overcoming story for those of you people that have no idea who you are.
So great question. Thanks for asking. Myself, I'm a 58-year-old caregiving daughter. I have great parents, thank God, that live in Seattle in a nursing home. They need a lot of care, so I'm back and forth a lot to the West Coast. I live in Minnesota. I'm a sister. I'm so blessed that my older and younger sister didn't kill me in my sleep as a teenager, because I was the one who needed no sleep at all, and I still don't. I'm very comfortable, like 3 or 4 hours a night. It's fine. And they needed like hours. They keep laughing all night, and they would be like, "Oh my God, I can't function." And I was like, "What's wrong? Could have killed me." Anyway, so they wanted to. They do like roll their eyes, like maybe they wanted to. Wife, 36 years, mother, we've got 4, 7 grandkids currently, 3 married, one's youngest daughter's in college still, just finishing up her computer science degree. And I was lucky enough, this is kind of a crazy story. I was walking out of a meeting 7 years ago last May in LA, and I had shaped a project that was a faith-based film, and the director, we had it all locked down, like everything, the budget, everything ready to go, and the director doubled the budget. I'm not sure why. Nobody gave it. There's just like, okay, we need more. I was like, no. So the producer I was working with at the time said to me, "It's untenable. We can't make it work this way. I own the rights." So he said, "You've got to extract yourself from that option and just go on with your life." And so I was like, okay. I spent a year to facilitate this project, and it wasn't coming together, whatever. So I have a great expression that I adhere to: man plans and God laughs. So I heard the laugh, and then my friend, the producer, who's done like big things, like he did the Meg and the Meg 2 and Cowboys and Aliens, and he's really vested in this project. And he turned around and came back into the garage, and I canceled the Lyft. And I always use Lyft. I never used Uber. I don't know why. Pink, I don't know, whatever. And I canceled the Lyft, and it was coming. And he said, "Hey, I have a project that I've been offered that I'm considering. It's a musical also. It's about a circus, and it has Hugh Jackman attached. Are you interested? We could do it together. It'd be a lot of fun." And I said, "I'm not going to be honest. I think circuses are kind of creepy, so I'm going to take a pass." And he's like, "Oh, my daughter's a vegan. She probably would hate it also. Good idea. Okay." So he went on to do the Meg, which did $535 million worldwide. And I called this little second Lyft, and my producing partner was the driver. And so, as it says in the video, that, there was no like, okay, I'm dead, I'm lost, I can't, this isn't going to work, I'm done. Mm-hmm. I'm not in control of what happens to me. I'm only in control of how I react. So I was like, okay, let's figure out how to get this one off my plate and figure out what's coming next. Sure enough, I get in the car. No, I never saw his face. Didn't really matter. And I said, and I was like, but I was kind of on fire about this whole thing not working. And so what do you do? And what's your day job? And he said, "This is what I do. And during the day, I'm writing a script for a feature film, and which is originally it was a feature film." And he said, and it was like I'm from California, and like I get basic details, but there was something about the intensity of this man. Like he really knew where he was going, not just driving. And I do think, in fact, he's a great driver, helps, but not just driving, but in his own mind, like he knew where he wanted to go. And I think that's, it's fantastic for someone who's as young as he is. He's like the age of my kids. My kids are all also directed, but I was like, oh, here's another one. This is crazy. And I met a lot of millennials, and they're like, oh yeah, he was like, this is what I'm going to do. And there's no question. And there was like, and I said, do you have a mentor? Do you have someone you're working with? Do you have a coach? You know, how are you doing this? Who's your dialogue? How are you doing the dialogue? You know, whatever. And all kinds of things. And I just kind of puked out questions because I was in that headspace of like, well, you know, maybe I can add value. By the end of the ride, 51 minutes later, actually, I was like, I said, listen, let me help you find a mentor in LA. I'd be thrilled to do it, but I'm geographically undesirable because I live in Minnesota. And you probably want someone you can sit down and have coffee with. And I said, but I'm happy to find you. So there's some great people here in town. I just know they're great. My friend is a producer. They'd be with you and have coffee and, you know, once in a while and kind of keep you going. They said, I'll take you up on that. So I give my information and what I give my card. And I thought, wow, I've offered to help this one. This one really deserves it. Like there are some people that you know that they're really going to, when you extend your hand, they're going to take it. Conversely, when you're in a ditch, you're going to put your hand out and they're going to reach in and get you. And that was this guy. So I get back to Minnesota. I mean, my attorney, whatever. And sure enough, 2 days later, I get an email and it just says one line on the subject line. It just says, hi, this is Noah, your Lyft driver, with a little smiley face. And so I reached out and I said, Ken, I never saw his face. And I said, I think you have a lot of potential. You really have the right attitude to do this. And I said, I'm happy to read the first 15. That's a standard. Like, I don't need an NDA to write it. You know, just if you want to share your first 15 pages with me, then I'm happy to read it. And I'll give it to a couple people on my team and see what their thoughts are. And so he said, that's great. He said, let me polish it. A few days later, he gets back to me and sends it to me. And I liked it, Dorothy. Like, I read this and I was like, this is really different and really interesting. Not textbook, not formulaic. This really has. So again, I've never seen him. Don't care. I'm a grandmother. Like, I don't care. And then I said, I get to 2 guys on my team and they don't like anything. And they are super protective. And because they know what I went through with prison and everything. And they're like, okay, like we're gonna, who's this guy, you know? And they read it and they both got back to me and said, this is independently, this is interesting. This is really different. I was like, I know, right? And I called Noah and I said, all right. And I said, I think you've got something here that's really unique. If the rest of it is as good as the first 15 are, I think we should go into business together and produce your film. And he said, I'll take you up on that. That's great. So then I was like, okay, how do we do this? So I said, I'm gonna come to LA next month. And and he said, oh, I'll pick up the airport. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I know somebody's a Lyft driver. And so sure enough, about the time my youngest said, who's smarter than I'll ever be, Dorothy. I mean, like, it's not even so she said, Ma, you're spending a lot of time mentoring Noah more than you do the rest of your strays, because that's what they call them, mommy strays. And she said, you should Google him and see if he's a serial killer. I'm like, I didn't know Google had that so readily. Okay. And when I Googled him, what I found immediately, there was no mention of serial killer, because he's not, was his modeling portfolio. And it was stunning, like stunning. Versace, Barbados, GQ spreads. I said, was it, you know, like Vogue spread, like stuff, like high Calvin Klein billboards, like stuff.
Right.
And I texted him and I asked him, hey, can we have FaceTime? He said, that'd be great. Now I'm already going into business with the guy. If he looks like a potato, I'm in. I don't care. Like, it doesn't have to be, this is just some other guy with the same name, which is kind of unusual. Noah Bewley is kind of, so, and sure enough, FaceTime, boom, up pops that $1 million face.
Aww.
And the very first thing I said to him was, I'm so glad I loved your soul before I saw your face. He said, yeah, me too. And I said, wait, is this you? And I'm like a dork. Like, I held my phone up, like, my it's like, look, is this? And he said, yeah, didn't I mention? I was discovered when I was 14. And someone said, a photographer said, hey, let's take some pictures of you and your sister. My sister got some modeling gigs. And he said, I got signed right away 3 weeks later by Adidas International. And then it was just off. And then he said, I never really liked school. And it was never my thing. And whatever, went to school, I went to college. I don't want to be there. I'm all over the world. What do you do? And they call and say, okay, we want you to come to Australia for 3 days to walk the catwalk or whatever, to do a shoot. And you're like, well, how do you take finals? Like, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Right? So he said, but I don't want to be in front of the camera. anymore. I want to be behind the camera. I've always wanted to be behind the camera. I just, I said, you had a lot of, the only thing I would have suspected was that you had a lot of savvy about the industry. And I see here you've done film, you've done TV, you've done all this. He said, but I don't want to be in front of the camera. And I said, great. You don't ever have to be again. I'll do it all. That's fine. And so he said, I just want to write and direct. Mm-hmm. So he came to Minnesota shortly after that. I went to LA. I came back to Minnesota for a bit, and he stayed. And so this California guy who hates cold and humidity and all the other things, bugs that Minnesota offers, has stayed out a long time, almost 7 years, because we write really well together. We work really well together. In the interim, while we were developing, so the producer that I was working with on the other project, we went to him and he said, this is great. We said, but where's the book series? Kind of looked at each other and went, what do you mean? And he said, you have to write book series. It's book to film now, which is you want more intellectual property from which, for a buyer to licensee to draw upon. And we're like, okay, we're at the books. And in the interim, we did a short film, which I should have sent to you previously, and I'm happy to share with the audience if they'd like to see it. Rachel. And it's a true story. An older man whispered this in my ear one day in a meeting, and he said that when he was a little boy, he was 5, and he was in Kiev, outside of Kiev. They lived outside, Ukrainian Catholics, proudly so, but they lived outside of Kiev, and they lived across the road from the Jewish cemetery. And in 1942, they'd watched the Jews be marched up the road and murdered in the cemetery all the time. And his mother couldn't handle it. So she decided to gather all the neighbors together and create a kind of a underground railroad. And then Jewish neighbors and friends and family, whatever, few families would come, and they would get them out of the country into Hungary, which was still in play at the time. And he's witnessed some horrific things. And he said, I'd like you to do this film. And we're like, oh, we're really interested. And he said, I need you to do this. So in the middle of everything, and right before COVID, then we produced Rachel, which I said to Noah, said he'd always wanted to direct. Couldn't find a director here in Minnesota to do it. We had to shoot it here. We only took 3 days to shoot it, which is insane, by the way. Shot it in 3 days. And I said, couldn't find a director here that understood the nuances of it. It wasn't a James Bond movie. It's a story about a 5-year-old who, until he went back to the Ukraine in his 50s for business, did not remember what happened. And then when he remembered, it was so horrific. He didn't know what to do with that in his 50s. It was like all new to him. So we shot the film, and I said to Noah, I think you should direct this film. And he looked at me and he was like, what do you mean? I said, I think you should direct this film. Because I think you do a great job. You understand, we wrote it together, you understand it. And the next day he came up to me and said, I can direct Rachel. I said, I know you can, but will you? And he said, yeah, I will. And we won at World Fest Houston. Like, we did really well all over the world. This little film with no budget and no marketing money at all. And we went to all these festivals, but it was COVID. So I did Q&As, from my dining room table to all over the world, in Antwerp and in New York and the LA and whatever. And so and we won. Like, we did really well. And it was a great experience. And we knew that doing that, as we were building My Golden Blood, it was such a great, on the set, what to do. And we're the boss. So there you go. And Noah did super calm, never lost his cool, never things were going crazy and wrong and timing, and you've got 10 seconds to shoot the shot, and he said, let's do it. So he proved his mettle, and 100 times over. And there you go. So again, I'm happy to share with you. It's a really poignant film, and it could be. It's 14 minutes. It's a short film, so it could be made into a feature. We won't be doing it, but it could be if the owner, if he decides to sell it and license it and have it done. But anyway, so overcoming that obstacle, that here we are. I was finally offered a film, and then it just fell apart. And then I just believed that God had other plans. I just was not willing to believe that my desire to, Simon Sinek, my why to incite gratitude, I just really believed that, and doing that through storytelling and filmmaking was the way to do it. So I spoke all over the world, and I did all kinds of crazy things. And I was very blessed that Noah's why is so compatible with mine. His is to change people's perspective, which I think we need to do. We need to look at something and say, maybe I'm not right. Maybe we could have maybe Dorothy, we could have a discussion about this instead of just arguing. Maybe I don't have to draw a line in the sand and say that's it. We can communicate. I can change what I think, and I think a lot of it is because he's a quiet man. He looks like that, and he's quiet. And because he's quiet, people are like, oh, don't take me. And wickedly smart and really funny and a fantastic. So anyway, so that's a scoop. So we overcome. We think, oh my gosh, it's a terrible storm. It's really not. The wind is we just rearrange our sails and be redirected to something that's so much better. So I tell people often that turning down British Showman was the single best decision of my life, because I got it and there he was.
You got to. I love your perspective of that. A lot of people could go, "Oh my God, I just gave up all that." But what made you decide to go into film?
Because I really only have 3 skills in the whole world. Like I'm not being self-effacing. I have 3 skills. I'm not kidding. I can write. I can tell a good story. Thank you for allowing me to do so on your platform. And I am so blessed to collect the most amazing people who do the rest of the stuff. Like, hey guys, let's get a team. My dad's a cheerleader. My dad was a cheerleader in college, actually. And my mom was like, come on guys. And they're in the theater, and I studied theater all the way through college, and it was just like, okay, we could do this. And so why not do it this way? I can get the message out this way more effectively than I could get it out. The messages that we want to get out. So, and I love that, it really came to us in this process of writing the books and everything, the book series, that this really is for every kid who stood at the door of their house and heard toxic relationships and chaos going on behind the door. But they knew they were the only ones that maybe could bring calm or save somebody. So they took a deep breath and they went in anyway. And so for every person who doesn't think they're courageous for doing that, oh my gosh, they're so courageous. They could have turned tail and run. Nobody would have blamed them, but they didn't. And so all those kids, all of the adult kids who are like, oh, this is not the best conversation. This is not the best scenario. I'm just going to leave. This is for the ones who take a deep breath and go in anyway. So that's why I only have 3 skills. I might as well use them this way.
Well, and Kimberly is in the green room, and she's spinning. You don't need any other skills than that. Storytellers are the most powerful people on the planet, and getting their surroundings, yourself with talent, is to be loving God and loving others. The 2 key directives in the Bible.
100%. And it's not like I don't have to stretch. My kids are like our offspring. I call them the offspring, and then the grandkids are the springs, because they're like boing. And but they know me so well. They're like a word will come up, and they'll know exactly what story I'm going to tell from there. They're like, oh, so much so. And I tell you this with so much embarrassment, but it's so funny that a few years during COVID, most of them were home, and they made a bingo game around the completely predictable stories the mom's going to tell. So much so, they had bingo cards. And for months, I'd see them go, oh, I got that one. Bingo. And I was like, what are you doing? And then one day I was cleaning the house and I found the darn cards. And I'm like, oh my God, they made bingo cards, and it's all my shtick. Only like that. My stuff. I can be reduced to a small cardboard card because I'm fairly predictable in those cases, in that scenario. And,
I think every parent has their story because I remember my dad telling us stories. Oh my gosh. And sometimes it was the same story over and over again. But now that he's gone, that's what we have left. That's what we have left. Like I'll start one of his stories and I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to get this wrong. But, back in 1976.
right,
And,
my dad is the ultimate optimist, even as with disabilities and all kinds of things like that. My dad's the house drummer in the nursing home. They bring in musicians 4 times a week and he gigs and the whole place fills up with residents and staff and it's great. And if there was a big pile of horse manure on my front lawn right now and my dad saw that, he'd be like, that's so great. There must be a pony somewhere. Like, that's my dad.
Always seeing great and everything.
Like, I'm in, let's go. Like, that's the thing. Okay, Dad. No, it's just a prank, Dad. It's just a rig and run. It's just, no, there must be a pony. So that it didn't come from nowhere. So anyway, and my mom wants everybody she meets to feel loved. So it's a really cool way to grow up with like, hey, how can you do this? That said, on my first feature film set, at the very end of the shoot, I bought the entire staff, crew, cast and crew, everybody, sweatshirts with the logo on them. And everybody got a nickname on the back. And I'm like, hey guys, where's my shirt? They're like, well, we didn't get you. I wrote the check. Like, where's my shirt? No, we didn't have a nick. We didn't want to put your nickname on the back. This is like this is the rap party, and I said, and where I'm paying for the rap party, by the way. And they're like, I said, I have a nickname. They're like, oh, you have a nickname. Oh yeah, you do. Okay. I won't be mad, tell me. And they're like, no. Finally, my assistant said to me, the nickname is the sledgehammer of love.
Oh.
Now, I thought that was dope. I thought that was great. I'm like, that
was awesome.
They thought it was terrible.
No,
that is like... along, we'd be like, come on, guys, we could do this. And we all felt so loved. It was just crazy. Okay. You didn't grow up with my parents, so you don't know. Anyway, but that was the deal. So, and you are, it is so very difficult. Steven Spielberg said, it's almost impossible to get a movie made. If a movie gets made, it's a miracle. And it's very true. There's a million different things that you have to pull together. And there's 10 million things that pull it apart. Like, it's crazy. So you get to this space where you're like, we're just going to do it anyway. We're just going to do it anyway. We're just going to do it anyway. And you're like, okay, well, we don't have this. Don't worry about it. Then if we don't have it, we don't need it. If we, this thing, as long as I've got, everybody gets paid, everybody feels appreciated, everybody gets, an experience out of it, they get credit, like we can do it, then we're just going to finish it. With Rachel, I had no money for post-production, and that's a terrible thing. Like, you really have to, it's usually like a third of the budget. A third of the budget is for post-production, usually. Special effects and things like that. Sound design, all this stuff. We had nothing left. We had nothing. So somebody knew somebody who said, you should call Jay Rubin at Technicolor. Yeah, like, I'm going to call Technicolor. You bet I'm going to call Technicolor because I know Jay Rubin's name. So Jay's the vice president. And I get to Jay, and he's like, hey. I said, hi, Jay, I'm Wendy. We've not met yet, but I'm going to be in New York in a few days, and I just want to know, we'd like to do we have a short film, and we'd really like to do it at Technicolor. Postworks, Technicolor. It's like, great. We got space. What are you doing? And I said, here's what it is, and it's called Rachel. It's titled Rachel, and it's about, and I tell him the story, and I send him a little synopsis, and he calls me back an hour later, and he said, how much money have you got? And there's a lot to do for post. There's a lot. And I said, nothing. He's like, okay, we'll do it. And I said,
talk about the favor of God.
And I said, wait, I'm sorry, what? And he said, yeah, we'll do it. See if you can come up with something, I said, I got to ask Jay, why? And he said, I'm going to tell you a story, because stories are what bring us together, right? He said, my grandmother was one of 16 children, and she was born in the Warsaw Ghetto in the late 1930s. And big Jewish family, and she was an infant, and they were able to sneak her out of the ghetto through the sewer pipes with a plumber who would put kids' babies in his bag and get them out, just in case something happened. And the day after, with another family member, the rest of her 15 brothers and sisters and parents were killed in the ghetto.
Oh my.
And he said, and that baby is my grandmother, was my grandmother. And her name was Rachel. So when
I just got glory bumps off my entire body.
So when you said to me, I have a film about a woman who doesn't make it through, and in that same era, and her name was Rachel, he said, I'm going to do this for you with my best staff, my best team. The team Scorsese uses, I'm going to use them because I'm going to do this for my grandmother.
Wow.
And I was like, how does that happen? It doesn't, it happens. And I sat Noah down and I said, so we're going to do post a Technicolor. And he like, how are we going to do that? And I tell him the story. He's like, let's go. And we absolutely went with no money. We went with no money.
Oh.
And I have friends in New York, and I've got kids, family, and whatever. And we just kind of figured out and stayed there, and we figured it out. And they treated us like we were, again, Martin Scorsese, like just that. They're like, oh, this is Manchester by the Sea. It was done. It was editing was here, and this and we brought in an editor who was fantastic. He was fantastic, and we still work with him. And you're like, okay, like how does that all happen? It's nothing that we said, hey, we're going to target it. It's that we are just, again, we have the mission to entertain, inspire, and save lives. And that's what we intend to do throughout our career. So with that film, with Rachel, which was a hard film to shoot, and then Noah took it from the very first word on the script to that's my husband. That text, that quack, that's my husband. That's the ring on my husband. I got to turn off the sorry, honey. Took it all the way through for. He just said, "Hi, Dorothy. Enjoy podcasting." Wendy. He just said that. Texted me that.
Hi.
So Noah followed all the way through from the first word on the page and the many, many iterations of it, all the way through to the last seconds of post-production. Like everything.
Wow. Because
in that, he went to film school that way. Right. And he saw it all firsthand, in charge, ready to activate all the stuff that needed to be done, like make the decisions. And, we did a ton of it together. And I am not technical. I have trouble jiggling the handle on a toilet. Okay. So this is like... Our cinematographer was great. She's gonna direct the pilot for Rachel for Michael in Blood. Her name is Valentina Cornelia. We've been friends for a long time, and it just fit. And so, when she and Noah work together beautifully, like very symbiotic. It's beautiful. And she would say to me, "This is a beautiful shot. Look through the camera lens." And I had no idea what I'm looking at. I'm like, "If it's good for you," she's like, "No, look, you'll learn." It's like, okay. But Noah's like, yeah, that's great. Oh, that's great. And there are scenes in there that are really going to give you bumps because it's just, there's so many.
Oh my gosh.
And it's so true. And that's really hard. Anyway, that said, so then we're building a posse. Valentina will direct, and she's amazing. And we have had the same creative director. If you'll notice in that video, next time you watch the video, look at Noah's face and look at the lead character, Clay. And it's the same face. And I was we have to do this because I didn't want to hire an actor to pose. So I'm like, yeah, there's a million pictures of your face. So let's do you. Right. Like, fine. So we were in a Hollywood meeting one time, and they're like, look at the pitch deck. This is really interesting. And then the woman looks over at him and looks at the deck and looks over. Wait a minute. Is that you? And I said, yeah, we had him, He was available.
Why not?
So our creative director is just he's been with us since day one, really. And he, like Valentina, can put a little USB port in Noah's head and just like go, okay, I see what you're trying to extract. Like, I get this. So it works out really well. And the purpose of, I don't want to interrupt. If you have questions, stop me. Just like,
I just got to take one quick break. I do have to put in our sponsor for tonight's show, so just one moment here. Today's show is sponsored by Carrie Pachuch, Master Relationship Coach. Have you or your partner ever said these words? My partner never listens to me and we argue all the time. My partner always has to be right and everything is always my fault. Our relationship is boring. My partner doesn't trust me and we fight over money all the time. We can never agree on how to raise our kids. If any of this sounds familiar, you as a couple have the power to change your relationship and create more joy and intimacy. Please visit highestintentcoach.com or 512-593-0524. There you will find links to Carrie's book, courses, and make an appointment and schedule a private conversation. Just for visiting, you are free to download her fun 50 things that couples can do just for fun. We have the tools you need to help as a couple and to help ourselves. Come discover and find your power today. Oh my gosh. Like, so I have so many questions of what you said, because I mean, what you're into is something that I one day hope to get into.
cool.
This is the start of this show, and then going on and and doing that. Actually, I have a friend that has a book called Created No Way Out, whom I'm trying to get somebody to direct, produce that and make it into a film. So if you have other projects or want other projects, let me know.
Talk.
I can send you the book. I can send you a copy of her book.
We'll talk. Nice, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. So
watch Rachel first, and my first feature before you're like, okay, really, she's just phoning it in. No, I'm not really phoning it in, but yeah, it's. I know a lot of creatives who are looking, and I know a lot of people on the other side who are looking for good projects that have legs. So we'll talk. I'm happy to be that matchmaker for sure, if nothing else.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I just like, how do you know, like, how do you put the whole film together? Like, is that, I get that you said that you're a storyteller and things like that, but you're obviously an amazing storyteller, but I mean, it takes something to do what you've done. I mean, how many you've had I know you've had more than a couple.
2 features and 2 shorts. All of them have won awards. So 2 features and 2 shorts. It's interesting. I associate produced, and I really worked on the business side of a film called 1230. I've never even seen the film. It's the only one I haven't seen. Wow. And 1230 has a lot of really cool, and then really basically took my crew, cast and crew, some of them from The Scientist, my first feature, which I did before I met Noah, and they went to this film. And this film had an unknown who was the lead, and it's a really dark film. And because I know him, I didn't really want to see the film. And because he's a great guy, a fantastic, fun, like happy fun ball kind of a guy. And his name is Jonathan Groff. So Jonathan Groff won a Tony for Hamilton. And he was, after he did this film where he plays a really, really sneaky, nasty rapist, it's just gross. What the character is gross, but he keeps a facade, being this nice guy, and he just takes advantage of a whole family, basically. And it's just really disturbing. Anyway, but in real life, he's a hoot. We laughed so hard. He's like, Wendy. I just met him. Why do I know your name? I'm like, honey, I sign your paychecks. He's like, oh, now I know. So really funny. So he, so after this film, so that then again, the business side of it, you learn that a film only has as much value as the actors and the book or whatever you're basing off of has when it goes to market. So this film was a very low budget film, and it was a very interesting script, and it went, and then Jonathan took off because right after he shot this film, he got the lead in Glee. The lead he played, if you watch the first season of Glee, he plays the singer in the opposing high school. Like, he is the one in the opposing high school, and there's a big drama thing with it. So he so then his Blue Book value went up dramatically. I learned a lot about how to cast for future things. If I shoot a film today, which can't happen necessarily because of the strikes, but if I shot a film today and I wrapped it tomorrow, and it would go through post, that would take, a film would take 7-9 months, depending on editing and post and all that kind of stuff. it depends where the actors are at that time. So you've got to know with your actors and all your talent, you've got to see who has an upward trajectory. Like who's going to just take off. Years ago, I'll give you an example. My sister Julie is great at this stuff. She can eyeball an actor and go, this guy, I'm telling you. So we went to see the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. And then that was Johnny Depp's first feature film. And she said, Wendy, that guy is going to be huge. And I was like, he gets sucked into a bed. Really? And she said, I'm telling you, he's going to be huge. She said, all right, obviously. She said to me, oh, you've got to see so-and-so. And sure enough, it's like went crazy. So you have to look for what's coming in the future. And it's really an interesting thing to know. It's cool now. It won't be cool in 3 years, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 7 years when you actually get the film into the market. So you have to be able to see. So what I because I collect amazing people, I see what they can be. I see if they do what, if they follow their intentions and they are really committed, I see what they can be. And that helps me a lot in the business part of it because I see their upward trajectory. It's rampant. It's imminent. And that's a huge thing. The truth is, the film business is exactly like the real estate business, except for one thing. So my father's a real estate broker, and I grew up in a real estate broker's office. You have a piece of property, and you have it improved, and the city brings the plumbing in, and like that kind of stuff. And every step of the way in a property that you're building from like a piece of farmland that turns into a Walmart or whatever, you have every step of the way there's improvements, and they bring a highway in and do all kinds of stuff. And the property value escalates. Boom, 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 boom. Even if for some reason it stops in the middle, the builder goes bankrupt or whatever, there's still value. You've got the land and the improved land, and you've got all the supplies, like you've got all this stuff. Okay. And at the end, from the beginning to the end, you knew what the value would be. Let me my screen a little bit here. So you knew what the value would be of the land, of the property. Okay, I'm gonna build $1 million house. Guess what? It's gonna sell for $1 million. Like that's what's gonna happen. With the film or TV, I have to be able to project like this person is going to be a superstar. This person is going to do so much. It's going to be such a humanitarian that people are going to fall in love with them. And they're going to do X, Y, Z, and this is who they are. And that I go through all the processes, the same thing as real estate, improve it and get the incentives from the state, and you pick the locations and all that stuff, and you cast it for potential. And there's a line in My Golden Blood, which you'll see on a lot of all the marketing stuff. And the line is capacity for greatness. And the first time I ever said those words was like the first time, I ever like hung out with Noah. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, here's what I see. And he said, why would you partner with me? And I said, because I see that you have a capacity for greatness.
Absolutely.
And I'm back with that. Like by that, he was like, really? I said, look, I'm willing to bet my life on the fact that you can do this. And he said, I'm willing to bet my life on the fact that we could get this done together. I just don't know how to do it. I'm like, that I do. Either I've got it, or my attorneys, or my friends, or my other producers. Like I've got no shortage of people who can pick up the phone and call and ask. And then there's Google, which, So okay, how do we get this done? It's a piece of property. I have a piece of property. It's a book series called My Golden Blood. And the first book in the series is called Crossing to Existence. And that is the first season or 2 possibly of the television series. Why TV? Because in the middle of this, that COVID thing happened. You heard about it. It was a little theatrical, and it got everybody kind of, and it changed all the theatrical. And our producers, we have a fantastic producer in LA, fantastic. And she said, look, the book is chapters. That means you're episodic. Why don't you go do like the Stranger Things model? And I was like, great. Here's the difference, though. We are Stranger Things with a purpose. And I'll explain the whole purpose. My Golden Blood, as we talked about, is an unbelievably rare blood type where they're just, instead of being A positive or negative, I'm A positive. It's only A plus I ever got because I'm a C's get degrees kind of gal. So A positive is, or A negative. That's the negative. Positive is the antigens, the proteins and stuff that's in the blood. Okay, genetically.
Right.
Golden blood is just A. or B or AB or O. And they can only give to each other. I could take blood from a woman with golden blood or a man who had A blood, but they couldn't take from me. So we have this. So they say there's 100 people in the world that have it. I think they're wrong. And I'll tell you why. Because I happen to know for a fact, there are 3 of them in Minnesota. There are 3 in Minnesota, and statistically, there's 100 in the world. It's an anomaly. I don't think it's real. People don't know their blood type. And a great way to learn your blood type is to become a blood donor, a volunteer blood donor. We have a situation in North America, both in Canada and the United States, where only 3% of the population donates blood. Now, arguably, a lot of people can't because of health issues or age or whatever. Okay, cool. But only 3%. So the 3% of us that give blood are supplying everybody who needs blood. That means kids with sickle cell anemia, people who are taking chemotherapy, anytime anybody needs a transfusion, a mother who, God forbid, hemorrhages during childbirth. I have a friend, my daughter went to high school with a girl all the way through school actually, who had like her 5th baby and she hemorrhaged. And there are people kidding. But there has to be blood, not just, here, take it on my arm and put it in. It's a process. It takes a couple weeks for it to get to where it needs to be and to process the blood properly and make sure it's an exact match and all kinds of things. It's not simple. And there has to be enough in the blood bank. And it only lasts for like 42 days. And then it's no anymore. So we live in a world where we have an urgent crisis. There are people in your city and in my city right now today that cannot have the surgeries that they require because there's not enough of their blood types available in the blood bank. They have to bring them from New York or whatever, in their city or Toronto or whatever. We can change that by empowering our young audience. By the way, our young audience, 16 to 35, is the smallest percent of people who donate blood.
Wow.
So by us empowering people just to go donate blood one time a year, we could eradicate the urgent need for blood, the emergency situation, and people know their blood type. And what if they have golden blood? Now, here's how I know why golden blood is so valuable. Because when I was giving blood once, and this nurse said to me, "You're not gonna believe it. I took blood from a woman with golden blood." And I said, just asked, does she look like a regular Minnesotan? And she said, "Yeah, you'd never know." So I said, okay. I said, and then I have to ask, does her family have it? Yes, her mother and her daughter have it. They all live here. Great. So then you get to that space where you say, okay, now, this woman, like, is she in hiding? And she said, absolutely, except she has a deal with several universities and big laboratories that they will buy a test tube of her blood for research periodically. And she'll come in and we'll draw the test tube of blood. And a guy comes in Kevlar and handcuffs with his briefcase in his hand, and he'll wrap it up and put it in there. And he gives her a check for a test tube of blood, which is 2 tablespoons, if that. He gives her a check for $2,000 each time.
Oh my gosh.
Worth more than gold, which is why they don't let people know that they have it, because that would be bad. That could be bad. So we live in a world where if somebody actually gives blood and they find out that they have golden blood, well, there's your golden ticket. You just won the lottery. There you go. On the other side of it, it's the most amazing thing, Dorothy. I just gave blood Thursday afternoon. What's today? Thursday. My daughter and I, and there's a bunch of teenagers in there. And they walk in hunched over and they feel like they have no value. And it is the most, they've got piercings and tats and all. They just feel, you see it. They're just so dark inside. And they are brave enough to give blood. Either they had to do it for a class or they decide, whatever the scenario was, they give blood. And after an hour total, that's all. I can do it in 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but the whole process, the explanation and the questionnaire and the health exam and everything, they shoulders back, head up. They find out that they've just saved 3 people's lives, and they are different people. Because the coolest part about it is, in my opinion, other than the fact they got a cookie, I think cookies help, by the way, but the fact is they never know whose life they just saved. Can you imagine walking around every day thinking, Is it that one? Is it that one? Now, there are some, American Red Cross, CAN, and Memorial Blood Centers, like there's some organizations that will tell you, will text you a message and say your blood was just used, was shipped to New York, where it was used for a 2-year-old who's taking chemotherapy. Can you imagine? You never know who they are. It's not like an organ donor. You don't know.
Right.
And you can go every 56 days. Every 56 days you can go, and it's healthier for us. There are the old red blood cells. We grow new ones. It takes something to bounce back. The big picture is we can eradicate this. We can save lives. We can eradicate this urgent need. We can make it go away. At the same time, people can understand. And we have the coolest swag, Dorothy. We have great logo and we have great stuff. And we can do a contest, show me your boo-boo, and upload it on Instagram, and we'll put you and we'll bring you to LA, or we'll bring you for a premiere, or we'll bring you to on the set. We can do all kinds of cool things.
Sold. You have me sold. Like, you are such an amazing storyteller. Like, it's just
so exciting to me.
I got to bring Kimberly on. Because we are on.
Kimberly.
We are now switching to the fundamental section of the show, but I couldn't stop you in your story, right? You are an amazing storyteller, and I'm like, I don't want to be rude.
So excited. It's so extraordinary that I get to do this, and I get to do it with someone I love, and then I respect, and these people are so great, and they're so passionate about doing this the best way possible for the maximum impact. And the maximum impact is not like, selling stuff. It's give it away and get people to do what we want. They want to do because it helps them. That's what we want. So everybody's on the same team, and it's really cool. So, okay, Kimberly.
I love that. And welcome, Kimberly, our roving reporter. Where are you at today, my friend?
So we're in the beautiful state of Indiana today. So woo all you Indianas and Hoosiers.
Hoosiers.
The licenses used to say Wander, Indiana.
Yes, that's a real thing.
That's a real thing. And I was like, wow, they're just lost. They're just walking. And then I went to Indiana.
Oh, not all who wander are lost, Wendy.
No. There you go.
No. Don't let that fool you. Indiana are not lost by any stretch of the. They're wandering, but they're not lost.
Wandering is such a good thing.
And they have the most amazing ice cream. Just saying.
And they have many things. They have many things. So
She says, what's your home base, Kimberly?
Well, that's a fun question. And I would say my home base is planet Earth right now.
I like that.
That's just being straight.
People say, what's home for you? I said, anywhere that my Wi-Fi hooks up right away.
Right? Yeah.
Honey, I'm home. There you go.
Yes,
so,
That's right. Where God and two come together, I'm home.
Oh, lovely. Beautiful.
Yeah. Great question, though. Thanks, Wendy. And there's for me to ask you a very poignant question, right? Inside the fundamentals. And so it's my privilege and honor, as always, to bring this part of the show. And as always, letting the Holy Spirit let me know what particular, product and service that I provide, that would be a perfect tie-in with this show. And there were a couple of key things that came up to share and give away, which is number one, I absolutely love everything you shared tonight. It's been such a privilege to be in the green room and be in your presence with you and praying over the show. I absolutely love the blood conversation, and it's funny because we just had another show where blood types came up, and now here we are again, right? And the blood of Christ, and like all these things are just running through me. And then the golden ticket. I mean, Dee just knows that I'm just sitting back here. My blood was boiling in a good way. Just saying.
Boilermakers, isn't that you too? Boilermakers.
There's another Indiana reference. There we go. So that's amazing, and super excited to get to be a part to provide with that with you. My husband and I are definitely huge advocates of blood donations. And it's just so funny that you brought up the golden blood, because I didn't know about the golden blood. And I was just celebrating that I am RH negative, which is also a rare blood type, right? I don't know what I don't know. I just know that it's rare, right? And then I Googled the golden, and the Google even shows it's only 50 people.
And they're wrong.
Yeah, whatever. It's still.
It's just my instinct. Because how can we have 3 in Minnesota and there'd be 100 people worldwide? Minnesota's great. We're not.
Yeah, and let's just stand in. All the blood's rare and lovely and wonderful, and it's clearly rare. Yeah, it's clearly rare in the fact that only 3% of people are giving their blood. So I just, first and foremost, there's for me to support you in that drive and that calling, and to let people know, listen, we give blood. Also, it's a thing. That whole awareness around that 3%, and get out there. Be part of the solution, and get that your blood, whether it's rare or not, you get to say that it's rare. And it's clearly rare in the sense that it's not being given.
Right.
And I like to personally remind people it's a health thing to give your blood. You want to pump it out. You want to, you want to keep the body creating new blood and living off new blood.
Exactly. And the emotional component of when you've got no money and you've got no time and you just feel like I'm no good to anybody, having the presence of mind to say, I can give blood, and then going to do it. It's like, wow, nobody can give that pint of blood. Nobody in the world can give what I can give.
Yeah.
He always has something to give. And if we're not able to, for physical or whatever reasons, totally simple. Call a friend and say, I just want you to know, I don't know if you know this, if this is important, and I will go with you and hold your hand.
100%. 100. Brilliant.
It makes it builds a bond, and it makes us, and it gives us something that they didn't know they could do. We call us over, can you write a check, or can you send dinner over? They have and we all want to do all those things, and it's just not possible. But what does God want from us? He wants us to do what we can do without families.
That's right. That's right.
Can we do this? And there's so many ways to do this, and to empower other people to do this. And so there you go.
Absolutely. So and you bled right into, pun intended. You bled right into what that I definitely want to share with people tonight is that I've been doing real estate for over 40 years. Yes, I did say over 40 years. I also come from a real estate family, which was when you had mentioned that about your dad, I was like, well, okay. And then you brought up the blood, and then you brought up that key component about how powerful it is to do for others, right? And what that does to feed your heart and your soul, which is actually the key component. That's your lifeline for your human vessel, right? So Dee, if you could put the email back up, we are actually causing real estate investing opportunities that ends homelessness. Literally, it has the potential to end it globally in 10 years or less. Okay. So please, if you have any interest whatsoever, don't worry about whether you have funding or not. But if this brings any interest to you whatsoever, similar to the blood donations and things like that, reach out to this email address and we will get you hooked up. If you have any, and it doesn't matter like what area you're passionate about. It could be prisoners. It could be military. It could be single moms. It could be, people dealing with addictions. The list goes on and on and on. And if it's simply that you live in a town or a city or a state where you're committed that's town or city or state, will benefit from housing the homeless, email me at this email address and we will get you hooked up. Okay. And with that now there, beautiful. Wendy, please, won't you share with us your 3 fundamentals.
That's so interesting. So we incorporate that into our mission. We aspire to entertain, because in the entertainment component is where we connect. If we can laugh together, we can live together.
Amen.
We inspire. We want to give someone an idea of something they didn't know they had the capacity to do, and they could do it. And then we want to save lives. And it's the beauty of getting young people to become blood donors is not just that it's so needed, it is, but we need to inspire our young people to understand that we are here for a reason. God doesn't make mistakes. There's a Rabbi Breslov, I'll come to his name in a second, and he said that the day you were born was the day that God decided the world could no longer exist without you in it.
Mm.
So we have that component of like, oh, I'm just no, you're not just the world can't exist without you in it. That means don't take yourself out and be a part of what we're doing. And that means helping young people understand that they have so much inherent value, well beyond their veins, their emotional, their hands, their heart, their helping, the compassion, an ear to listen, like all those things we have to let them know they have that, so they feel worthy of being able to step up and do those things. So that's our goal, is to not only save lives from the blood donation, but save lives by allowing people who are living but not really alive to know that they're needed here. They're wanted and they're loved. God loves them. We love them. And when they give life to someone else, it's like they've saved the world.
Beautiful.
So
beautiful.
Those are my 3.
Yeah, and then they're stunning.
Thank you.
Kind of like your 3 skills. Stunning.
Really stunning. It's stunning that my sisters didn't kill me in my sleep. That's frequently, and I do mention that to them occasionally when we're together, and they're like, we know, a lot of temerity. But I thank you, ladies, so much for the opportunity. How can I add value for you?
Well, Dorothy, I'm going to turn that back over to you.
Well, my
hot
friend,
seat, Dorothy, hot seat.
I know, hot seat. Well, my goodness, like there's lots of possibilities here.
Well, here's what I'll just throw in, Wendy. The thing about this show is that once you're on the show, you're part of our community. Beautiful. So we as each person comes onto the show, they become part of they've always been part of our family. They're in the family now. Right. So it's not thanks and then bam, thanks for playing with us and have a great life.
Yeah.
So we'll be letting you know. We'll answer that question ongoingly for the next,
as it comes,
I don't know, 100
people
years.
will come to you and they'll say to you, "Oh, I've got an idea." So I'm limited in scope, and my attorney's like, what ideas I can review myself, but I can give direction. I mean, I can say, here's an option, and here's a great podcast, and they'll tell you what to do, and like if like all kinds of things, and then when someone says, look, am I getting someone wants money to do XYZ, I'll be like, no. Mentors in Hollywood should never charge you. Like I don't charge anybody. I won't do that. I mean, if I see someone has a capacity for greatness, I want to give them that push that they need, or the information they need, or a soft place to land with their ideas where they feel respected. And so a lot of that I learned from my parents, God bless them, and my partner, because he was the first one I ever said that to, and I'll give you a little quick thing. So when we travel a lot, and he'll say, oh, let's go to your room. And he'll go to my room, and I'll open the door, and I stay outside, and he walks through the room, my hotel room, and inspects every light fixture and everything, checks every closet, and then steps out and leaves. Someone who wants to take make sure that I'm safe in every way is a blessing. That, that's family. That's what happens. If we don't take care of each other, what have we got? And if we're not willing to do that, then what do we got? So and my kids love him. My grandkids, where's Noah? I'm like, really? I'm right here. Like, I know, where's Noah? I have to ask him about the Lion King. Really? So yeah, and my sons are like,
I aspire to be the next Noah. How's that?
really, he's wickedly cool. And he's, you can see he's ugly too. It's really hard. It's so, with his physical, it's just so hard to hang out with him. But I'm kidding. But he's and my mother loves, my parents love him. My parents love him. So he's got 4 generations of us, like, woohoo. And I always call him my gift from Lyft. It was not, so all that said, I learned a lot about compassion and caregiving in whole new ways. Mm-hmm. And my husband's wonderful and supportive and crazy in his own right, and that's good. And my kids made a bingo game about how crazy I am. So there you go. Mom's crazy. And they know, and 2 of them have been on my sets, and 2 of them have no interest. I don't want to go. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see the movie. Okay. You do you, boo. I don't care.
That's right. That's right. You do you, boo.
and I have to put a plug in for your husband, since he did call on the show and said hi to me.
He texted me. He said, "Enjoy the podcast." Hi, Dorothy. That's
so if you're in Minnesota, go check out Basil.
It's ridiculously good.
You have it's all fresh all the day.
No New Yorkers come. It's New York style pizza, and they're like, "Why aren't you in New York?" I say, "Because New York is gross." Well, what? Really? And I'm like, no, I love New York. Like, it's great. And I love it. I've got kids there. I love it. Mm-hmm. That said, I tell them, they walk up and say, "We're going to ruin you for anybody else's pizza." And this guy walked in there, he goes, I'm ruined. I was like, he said, my wife brought it home. And the kids
you could start shipping it globally.
That's right.
I actually have gotten on a plane with a pie one time.
Yeah, but I mean, why not ship it? Hey, it's kind of like the blood thing, Why would you why would you ruin people for pizza? Why wouldn't you get it out there for everybody to have?
There's only so many hours in a day. Poor guy, my poor husband. I was on a plane once. I got on a plane with a pie, and Paul Schaefer, who used to lead Dave Letterman's band, was on the plane. He looked at me, he goes, "What?" And I said, "We deliver anywhere." Just weird. And
great.
So I will bring, and my sister's like, "Oh, my sisters haven't been here. I don't know. It's just my sisters have had like weddings, and my weddings have been like out of state. My kids' weddings are out of state, so whatever. It's still." They're like, "Oh," when I go there, like, "Oh, you gonna make pizza?" Oh, homie don't make pizza. I don't know how to do it. But I'll tell you something, this is true. These guys that throw it up in the air. So my 23-year-old was trying to impress a girl. He married and have a baby now, thank God. But so he said, "Oh, would you like pizza?" And she said, "Oh, okay, that's great." So she's very sweet. Love her. She's amazing. And she's amazing with him. And he did the whole throw it up way up in the air thing. And, he went to the restaurant. He's like, "Well, let me make you a pizza." He's like, moves over. Peter like, "Okay." And he did the whole like fancy. There's the dough, and he's spinning around. Ooh, it worked because she said yes. So we're all good. But you're like, oh,
there you go.
Put that in your skill sets of.
There we go. Put that in your skill sets. Go to Basil when you're in Minnesota. Check them out.
Love to have you.
Yes.
Would love to have you.
Check out My Golden Blood. Definitely go check the Wendy's.
I'm going to be shooting God willing, in Nevada. Early 2024 is the plan. So we're going to shoot it. We're going to shoot the pilot, and then my goal is to license it, not to sell it. I mean, if somebody came to us like lots of millions of dollars, I'd be like, maybe, because we have a lot of other ideas. But I want to produce the first several seasons, so it stays on track the way Noah envisioned it to begin with, and then we can, have a conversation about. But that's way in the distance. Right now, we're just going to shoot the pilot, and it's going to be super fun. And you're both invited out to the film set. If you want to come.
Cool.
Nevada stays in Nevada, so we're okay. We don't have to tell everybody everything. And
That's good.
so yeah, we want to. It's got the great topography for it. They've got really good. They've got a really good film incentive program. So we're excited about going to Nevada. There you
That
go.
is awesome.
We're in.
We're in.
I love
Another
it.
road
Thank
trip.
you so much. That's great.
Thank you. And thank you so much to our guests for joining us. And thank you so much, Wendy, for being
Kimberly.
such an amazing
Thank
guest
you,
on
Wendy.
our show.
My pleasure.
And check Wendy out on LinkedIn. I know she's got an amazing profile over there. Go check her
We
out.
just
Two
talk.
bombs.
Hey, Dorothy, I think you should allow the show to go all the way to 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds.
Wow,
I
we're
think
still
that would
not
be a
completely
really
finished.
cool
Angel numbers. I think
time,
you might
right?
anyway.
Like,
I
because,
know.
you know, so Wendy, you're very special I don't know that we've ever gone over this long, maybe once or twice, but so we're right there. Like, let's do it. Let's do
There
it.
we
Let's
go.
let the angels
Let's
in
do
on
it.
this show.
Excellent.
Oh,
Truth
yes, the Roku channel. Two
Bombs.
Truth Bombs. Don't forget to check us out on our YouTube channel, though. Unstoppable
Check us-
Overcomers.
check you
Our
guys on the
Roku
YouTube
channel.
channel.
Yep,
Unstoppable
you got 11
Overcomers.
seconds.
Come on,
And-
Wendy. Two Truth
Nope.
Bombs.
2 truth bombs. Number 1, had a great time, and number 2, I think this has been such a blessing, and I'm so honored to have been here.
Oh, you went
Same
over.
time, same channel next week. Bye.